Welcome, young scientists, to an exciting journey into Earth's protective shield. Today, we are exploring the ozone layer, that incredible blanket of O3 gas high above us. We'll uncover how it absorbs harmful UV radiation, learn about the chemicals called CFCs that once depleted it, and celebrate the global effort, the Montreal Protocol, that helped save it. Get ready to dive deep into this fascinating topic across 4 levels of understanding, from easy basics to competitive insights. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is this invisible shield, and why is it so vital for life on our planet? Imagine Earth wearing a natural sunscreen. That's essentially what the ozone layer is. It's a special region in our atmosphere, primarily the stratosphere, made of ozone gas, or O3. Unlike the oxygen we breathe, which has 2 atoms, ozone has 3. This layer acts as an amazing shield, absorbing most of the sun's dangerous ultraviolet, or UV, radiation. Without this protection, life as we know it would be very different and much more challenging, as these harmful rays can cause severe damage to living organisms. But this vital shield faced a serious threat from man-made chemicals called CFCs, or chlorofluorocarbons. These were once commonly used in refrigerators, air conditioners, and aerosol sprays. When released, CFCs slowly drifted up to the ozone layer and started breaking down the ozone molecules, making the layer thinner. This thinning led to the infamous ozone hole. Thankfully, the world recognized the danger. In 1987, an international agreement called the Montreal Protocol was signed, banning CFCs and initiating a global effort that is successfully helping the ozone layer heal. Now, let's test your understanding of these fundamental concepts. Take a moment to answer these 3 questions. First, what is the main function of the ozone layer? Second, what does CFC stand for, and where were they commonly used? And third, name the international agreement that helped protect the ozone layer. Think carefully, your answers will show how well you've grasped the easy level. Ready to go a bit deeper? Let's explore the science behind ozone's formation, the different types of UV radiation, and the detailed impact of CFCs. Ozone in the stratosphere isn't just there, it's constantly being formed and destroyed in a natural cycle. When powerful UV radiation splits an oxygen molecule, O2 into 2 individual oxygen atoms, these free atoms then combine with other O2 molecules to create O3 or ozone. This dynamic balance occurs mainly in the stratosphere, about 10 to 50 kilometers up. The sun emits various types of UV radiation, UVA, which is less harmful and mostly passes through, UVB, which the ozone layer largely absorbs, protecting us from sunburn and skin damage, and UVC, the most dangerous, which is completely blocked by ozone and regular oxygen, thankfully never reaching Earth's surface. The real troublemakers for the ozone layer were chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. These were synthetic chemicals, incredibly stable and non-reactive, making them ideal for industrial uses like refrigerants and propellants. However, their stability also meant they could slowly ascend to the stratosphere without breaking down. Once there, intense UV radiation finally breaks them apart, releasing highly reactive chlorine atoms. A single chlorine atom acts as a catalyst, meaning it can destroy thousands of ozone molecules in a chain reaction before it's eventually removed from the atmosphere. This incredibly efficient destruction mechanism led to the rapid thinning of the ozone layer. The consequences of a thinner ozone layer are severe. Increased exposure to UVB radiation leads to a higher incidence of skin cancers, such as melanoma, and eye conditions like cataracts in humans. It also weakens our immune systems, making us more susceptible to diseases. Beyond human health, ecosystems suffer. Phytoplankton, the base of the marine food web, are damaged, impacting fish populations. Crop yields can be reduced, affecting food security. Recognizing this global threat, the Montreal Protocol was signed in 1987. This landmark international treaty successfully phased out the production of CFCs and other ozone-depleting substances, proving that global cooperation can tackle major environmental challenges. Time for some more challenging questions to solidify your understanding. First, explain how ozone is naturally formed in the stratosphere. Second, differentiate between UVA, UVB, and UVC radiation in terms of their wavelength and harmfulness. Third, describe the chemical property of CFCs that allows them to reach the stratosphere and cause ozone depletion. Fourth, list 2 major health effects on humans due to increased exposure to UVB radiation. And finally, why is the Montreal Protocol considered a successful environmental agreement? Take your time to formulate comprehensive answers. Ready for the hard level? Let's analyze the intricate chemistry of ozone, delve into other threats, and connect ozone depletion to broader environmental theories. The natural balance of stratospheric ozone is governed by the Chapman cycle, a series of 4 reactions describing ozone's continuous formation and destruction, ensuring a stable layer that absorbs UV. However, this delicate balance is disrupted by human-made chemicals. CFCs, when they reach the stratosphere, release chlorine radicals. These radicals don't just destroy one ozone molecule, they act catalytically. A single chlorine atom can react with an ozone molecule, form chlorine monoxide, which then reacts with a free oxygen atom, regenerating the original chlorine radical. This allows one chlorine atom to destroy tens of thousands of ozone molecules in a relentless chain reaction, making them incredibly potent ozone depleters. Beyond CFCs, other ozone-depleting substances, or ODs, like halogens used in fire extinguishers, methyl bromide for pesticides, and carbon tetrachloride, also contribute significantly to ozone depletion. Bromine-containing compounds, in particular, are even more efficient at destroying ozone than chlorine. The consequences of increased UVB radiation are far-reaching. It directly damages DNA, suppresses the human immune system, and disrupts entire ecosystems by harming primary producers like marine phytoplankton and reducing crop yields. The Montreal Protocol has evolved over time, introducing amendments like Kigali to phase down hydrofluorocarbons, or HFCs, which, while not ozone-depleting, are potent greenhouse gases, showcasing the protocol's adaptability in tackling related environmental issues. The story of ozone depletion is also intertwined with climate change. Many ODs, including CFCs and their replacements like HFCs, are powerful greenhouse gases. Their phase-out has had the significant co-benefit of mitigating global warming. Paradoxically, global warming in the troposphere leads to cooling in the stratosphere. This stratospheric cooling intensifies the polar vortex and promotes the formation of polar stratospheric clouds, which are crucial for activating chlorine and bromine, thereby exacerbating ozone depletion over the poles. The ozone layer's recovery is projected to occur by mid-century, with the Antarctic ozone hole closing around 2066, but continuous monitoring is essential, especially with emerging threats like nitrous oxide, N2O, which is now the largest remaining ODs emission and not regulated by the protocol. Now, challenge your analytical skills with these hard-level questions. First, outline the 4 main reactions of the Chapman cycle. Second, explain the catalytic cycle by which a single chlorine atom destroys multiple ozone molecules, providing chemical equations. Third, name 3 ODs other than CFCs and their uses. Fourth, describe to non-cancer-related impacts of increased UVB. Fifth, how did the Montreal Protocol address developing countries' needs? Sixth, discuss the dual role of ODs in ozone depletion and climate change. And finally, what is the significance of the M in the ozone formation reaction? Good luck! Welcome to the hardest level. Here, we'll explore the intricate details of ozone chemistry, advanced measurement techniques, and the complex interplay between ozone depletion and global climate, preparing you for competitive insights. Understanding ozone requires differentiating between beneficial stratospheric ozone, a UV shield, and harmful tropospheric ozone, a pollutant. Stratospheric ozone distribution isn't uniform, it varies by latitude and season, influenced by the Breuer-Dobson circulation, which transports ozone from the tropics to the poles. The infamous ozone hole over Antarctica is a seasonal phenomenon, intensified by the polar vortex, a strong, cold air current that isolates the polar stratosphere. This extreme cold is crucial for the formation of polar stratospheric clouds, or PSCs, which are central to the most severe ozone depletion mechanisms. The true villainy of ozone depletion lies in heterogeneous reactions occurring on the surfaces of polar stratospheric clouds. In the frigid polar vortex, inactive chlorine reservoir compounds like HCl and ClONO to react on these cloud particles to form active chlorine species such as molecular chlorine and hypochlorous acid. When spring sunlight returns, these active species are rapidly photolyzed, unleashing a torrent of highly reactive chlorine and bromine radicals. Bromine, from substances like halogens, is particularly potent, with the Bro-Clo cycle being exceptionally efficient at destroying ozone in polar regions. This complex interplay of extreme cold, cloud chemistry, and sunlight drives the dramatic seasonal ozone loss. Accurate measurement is key to understanding and monitoring the ozone layer. Ground-based instruments like the Dobson and Breuer spectrophotometers analyze UV absorption to determine total column ozone. For vertical profiles, LIDAR systems use laser pulses, and balloon-borne ozone sondes provide high-resolution data as they ascend. From space, satellites like TOMS, OMI, and GOM offer global maps of ozone distribution, while instruments like HALO have tracked concentrations of odds and other trace gases. This comprehensive network of measurement techniques has been indispensable in tracking the ozone layer's health, confirming depletion, and now, monitoring its slow but steady recovery, while also detecting unexpected emissions that require further investigation and action. The Montreal Protocol stands as a monumental success, not just for its goal but for its innovative policy mechanisms. Trade restrictions incentivized participation, and the Multilateral Fund provided crucial financial and technical assistance to developing nations, ensuring equitable compliance. While initially focused on odds, its scope expanded significantly with the Kigali Amendment in 2016, which targeted the phase-down of HFC's hydrofluorocarbons. These chemicals, though not ozone-depleting, are potent greenhouse gases, highlighting the protocol's evolving role in tackling climate change. The phase-out of odds has actually averted significant global warming. However, the future ozone layer faces challenges. Stratospheric cooling due to greenhouse gases can delay recovery, and nitrous oxide, a major odds not covered by the protocol, remains a concern, along with the need for continuous vigilance against illegal odds production. Now, for the ultimate test of your knowledge. These first 5 questions delve into the most complex aspects of ozone science and policy. First, explain heterogeneous reactions and their critical role in Antarctic ozone depletion. Second, compare chlorine and bromine radicals' roles, explaining why bromine is more potent. Third, describe two ground-based and one vertical profile method for measuring ozone. Fourth, discuss two policy mechanisms of the Montreal Protocol beyond odds phase-out. And fifth, how did the Kigali Amendment expand the protocol's scope, and what challenge does it address? Good luck! Let's continue with the remaining 5 challenging questions. Sixth, explain how global warming, through stratospheric temperature changes, can paradoxically worsen polar ozone depletion. Seventh, differentiate between stratospheric and tropospheric ozone, including their formation and significance. Eighth, discuss the Breuer-Dobson circulation and its influence on ozone distribution. Ninth, what are reservoir species of odds and how are they activated? And finally, given the projected ozone layer recovery, identify 2 ongoing or emerging threats that could delay its full restoration. These questions require deep thought and synthesis of all you've learned. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the ozone layer. We've journeyed from understanding its basic protective role to exploring the complex chemistry of its depletion by CFCs and the incredible global effort of the Montreal Protocol that's leading to its recovery. We hope this comprehensive session has sparked your curiosity and deepened your appreciation for Earth's delicate atmospheric systems. For more such engaging and in-depth educational content, make sure to visit synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for continuous learning. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.